The amount of serotonin this bullet journal gives me is palpable. If you don't follow my Instagram, 1, you should, and 2, those who are active on my account know how obsessed I have been recently over the graphic novel and subsequent TV adaptation, hEaRtStOpPeR. My friend got me addicted, and now my brain is registering as head empty, just Nick Nelson. The question you're probably asking right now is, how does this rant have anything to do with the castle that I'm drawing at 4 times speed? And the answer would be very little, because technically, yes, my bullet journal theme for May 2022 is indeed fairy tales and cottagecore vibes, not hEaRtStOpPeR. However, keep watching to the end and I'll explain the correlation between the two, because I so happened to sketch this setup a day too early, but there are still remnants of my new favorite story throughout the unusually detailed bullet journal spreads. Before we get too far into this video though, don't forget to go down and subscribe, because I make a bullet journal plan with me's like this every month and you don't want to miss my next video. So like I said, my theme for this month is cottagecore fairy tale vibes, and it was directly inspired by this picture that I'll put up here on the screen that I saw on Pinterest. I'm literally drawing the exact same thing right now. It's simply just a castle, but I really liked how it looked and it almost reminded me of the castle from Snow White. And I've always thought that fairy tales had something to do with May, and maybe that's because of the correlation between Amanda H. Lee's May bullet journal theme from last year, but I feel like I took my own twist on the fairy tale vibes, and I'm just loving how this castle is turning out. I'm going to be outlining everything in this video with a Tombow hard tip Fudenosuke, and I've mentioned this before, but I just like the way that the tip is looser, and so I can make different thicknesses of lines. And as always, all the links to the stationery that I use in all of my videos are down in the description box below, so make sure to use them if you want to check out some of the stationery. So like I mentioned, I have been obsessed with hEaRtStOpPeR, and hEaRtStOpPeR was first a webtoon, then a graphic novel, and now a TV show adaptation, and I am just obsessed with literally all 3. But I read it literally the weekend that I was filming and planning out all these spreads, and so although the castles and fairy tales and everything doesn't have anything to do with hEaRtStOpPeR, it's literally a coming of age story, but I always like to say that I want my bullet journal to represent what I was doing in my life at the time of making those spreads, and so I try to add some implements of hEaRtStOpPeR into this theme. For example, in a minute you'll see me start to sketch out some flying flowers across the entire page. Now, I actually had the flying flowers idea before I even read hEaRtStOpPeR, because it's still spring and I'm still in the spring vibes, and I really love having flowers all across my bullet journal. However, if you've read the graphic novel, you would know that depending on what season it's in, they always have little flying leaves or flowers throughout the entire book, and that is just so cute. And so I tried to add that motif by drawing flowers similarly to the artist in hEaRtStOpPeR. Another thing is, you'll notice when I start sketching it out, is on the left, the boxes labeled goals and review have the flowers almost melting into the edges. And this is one thing that really reminds me of the graphic novel, because if you've seen it, you know that the boxes in it will sometimes have the flowers melting into the boxes, and I think that's just a cute and original touch that definitely at least reminds me of the graphic novel. And another tie that I like to think of is just the combination between boxes and free-form drawings that you'll see throughout this entire setup. One cool thing about graphic novels, like in general, not just hEaRtStOpPeR, is I just really admire the way that the artists can combine art in little boxes and like a comic strip, and also art outside the boxes, so it seems a lot more like cohesive and intertwining with each other and like a complete story and not just a row of boxes, you know what I mean? I'll put some pictures up here on the screen to kind of give you a reference, but I try to keep this in mind when designing my themes, so you'll see a lot of boxes everywhere, and there might be like words and stuff inside of those boxes, but I try to like mold that with the picture. And so on this cover page, when I start adding color to it, you'll see how I'm going to have blue clouds in the sky, but I'm also going to mold those blue clouds into the boxes by keeping the blue color motif and adding some clouds around it, you know, and with the flowers melting into the boxes, it just kind of seems like the entire page is put together and connected, even though they technically are like 3 different elements, with the flying flowers and the big picture and the different boxes. I hope that very long explanation made a little bit of sense to y'all. Basically, I'm just absolutely in love with the story and the style of graphic novels in general, and so I just had to implement it a little bit into my theme, even if it just is shown for me and not you guys, but it's meaningful, so I love it. Also, by reading hEaRtStOpPeR, I finally got back into reading, just to slump into another book slump after the series was over. I have been in a bit of a book slump recently, as I've mentioned before, and especially on my Instagram stories, I've shared how an app I have called Storygraph tracks my reading challenge, and I can always tell like when I'm am behind or ahead, and for the past month it seems it keeps telling me you are 1,000 pages behind, please catch up, or whatever. And so it's been a little stressful, but because I read hEaRtStOpPeR, which all the graphic novels put together are like 1,000 pages, and because I read all of that in within like literally a day and a half, so I've definitely caught up on my challenge, and so I'm really excited to at least be past that and I can finally have triumphed over my app. But on the negative side, I am back into a reading slump because nothing will ever trump this book. It's literally the same way like when I read Red, White, and Royal Blue, and then I was in a book slump for like an actual month because I didn't know what else to read because nothing else was good enough. And yes, I'm pretty sure the book I read after that was not good enough, so I don't even know what I'm gonna do anymore. But if you're a romance reader or even a fantasy reader, just please drop your recommendations down in the description box below because I love sharing book recs, and let me tell you, I need one after finishing this series. Now, as you can see, as I'm coloring in this castle, I actually thought of Snow White's castle, if you know her from Disney Princesses, because her castle is kind of beige with the red tips, and it kind of matched in with my color palette, although it's a little duller compared to the rest of the colors I'm going to be using in this bullet journal theme that you'll see in a few minutes. But I just really like this castle anyway, and again, I sketched it out before I thought of hEaRtStOpPeR, so it does lean more on the fairy tale aspect of the theme, but I think it turned out really cute. Another thing I would like to mention is you'll probably notice as I am coloring this in that I am not worried about staying in the lines in the slightest. I was actually super nervous when I started filming this theme because I actually realized it's been months since I've done just a simple line art and then color in with a Tombow brush pen, because last month I was doing some scrapbooking and alcohol markers. The month before there was no line art. The month before it was just very loose sketching, and the month before that there was again no line art. So like it's been like 5 months since I've done an art style like this where I literally just outline and color it in, and with all the details in this huge drawing I was super nervous in how I was going to color and add all the shadows and stuff. But that's why I'm super glad that I kind of implemented hEaRtStOpPeR into it, because if you know how graphic designers art usually is, there's not that much shadow, it's not very realistic, it's just very sketchy and very cute. And so I was really intentionally messy when I was sketching out all the color in this because I wasn't filling in the boxes all the way. I was leaving some white spots, especially with the flowers. I was coloring outside the lines, and especially with these mountains I was just kind of scribbling with my pen, honestly, and it made it super easy and simple on myself, so it wasn't stressful, but also it is purposeful, and so it looks good, and it looks like a rough mountain, or it looks like just a sketchy little castle, you know? And I think that just by being lazy, sometimes it could actually turn out to look purposeful. That's the real message here. So yeah, if you're getting nervous about doing an art project or something, maybe try like doing sketchy lines on purpose. Now, if you'll notice, on the corner of the page, I do have a Dutch door lined out, and that's because I decided to jump on the bandwagon of doing lots of Dutch doors for this month. Like I mentioned in my last video, which will be linked in the description box below as usual, I was thinking about different ways to come up with bullet journal theme ideas and give you guys some of my favorite tips. And one thing I mentioned was to keep in mind things that are trending, and right now in the bullet journal world, Dutch doors are trending. And so I kind of just decided to like join the gang and add a Dutch door, and actually 2 Dutch doors to this bullet journal theme. Before we move on to the calendar page, I did want to take a quick moment to talk about NordVPN. NordVPN is the fastest virtual private networking service and is widely popular around the globe. In case you don't know what a VPN is, it gives your device a personal waygate to encrypt your data and protect your identity. By using NordVPN, you can make sure you stay away from all those digital trolls trying to stalk your account. But let's be honest, the best part of a VPN is that it masks your computer's ID address. You can virtually change your geographical location, and so when you're watching Netflix, you can change your virtual location and get access to movies in different countries, which is obviously the best part. Personally, I've been using VPN for months now, and I love their service. They connect super quickly, and the app is very easy to use. You can choose from 60 different countries and get VPN service almost anywhere. So if you are looking to try out VPN, I do have a link in the description box below, so make sure you go check it out and start watching some Canadian television. I'm just kidding. Also, can we talk about how my shirt matches the theme? This is so exciting. That's like never happens. Anyways, I'm sure you guys are ready to get back into the plan with me. So let's get into the calendar page. Okay, here we go. So the Dutch door is finished, and now let's move on to the calendar page, which I don't know if it's my favorite page on the entire setup, but it's definitely pretty dang great. Okay, so I'm starting by outlining this pixie in the top corner, who I think is just stunning. All the pictures and drawings that I'm doing in this video, like I mentioned, are directly inspired from pictures I found on Pinterest because I'm not creative enough to figure this out on my own, but I'll put the picture here on the screen that's inspiring this little pixie, and of course, I just want to credit the artists because they are amazing and gave me all of my inspiration. But like I mentioned in my last video, I think taking inspiration from different people is a great way to find theme ideas, because probably whatever you're thinking, someone else has thought of it first. So it's no shame to take some inspiration as long as you credit somebody. So this is actually a cute little part of the spread, and I think of it just a little romance in this little part of the spread. So we have our darling little pixie up here on top of the calendar. She's kind of sitting, minding her own business. And then as the flowers trickle down, you can see in the bottom left corner and the very bottom of the screen where I have this little turtle drawn around the mushrooms, and he's going to be gazing up at his princess pixie. And I thought this was just so cute. And I thought it was a good way to kind of incorporate the use of this weird corner of space at the bottom of the spread because of how I cut the Dutch door. Speaking of Dutch doors, it was actually so much more difficult than I thought to do this style of Dutch doors that I did. I'm usually fine with doing Dutch doors, but I usually cut them just vertical and make a straight line all the way up the spread. But because I had the castle sprawling across it, and so there's this little wedge coming out of the corner, it makes it to be almost an awkward shape for the spread. And if you look to the right in the pencil drawing, you'll see I'm going to be doing something very similar on the next Dutch door, just a little higher, to make another similar wedge for the flowers. And so there are these little corners of space that are taken up on the front page, but when you turn it around, there's just a weird space that you're going to have to fill with another drawing and make it match the same area and the same shape, if that makes any sense. So I tried my best to kind of utilize these weird shapes, and by putting the turtle and the mushrooms there, I feel like it's enough of an organic drawing that you can kind of put the mushrooms at whatever height and put the flowers at whatever height, so it looks like it was purposeful and matches the same height of the cutout. My voiceover may be all over the place today, but if you have any questions, don't forget to drop them down below and I'll do my best to answer them because I reply to every single comment. And yeah, so that part of the spread is done. Let's now move over to the right side with these climbing flowers. As you can see, I actually wrote little notes for myself, like don't be too heavy and careful of Dutch doors, because it was actually really stressful sketching out the Dutch doors and figuring out like where things would overlap. But you'll see in a minute when I finish sketching out the spread how I had to be careful where the flowers were, that way they would still look good with the castle covering over part of it. And I actually don't think I was as successful as I wanted to be, but since they are just flowers, it's not too much of a big deal for me. And the third page Dutch door did work a little better anyways. But enough about the Dutch doors. This is technically the calendar spread, so maybe we should actually do the calendar. Ignore if you see my face peeking out of the bottom here, but I tried to keep the motif of the flowers melting into the box, which is just the cutest little idea. And so you can kind of see along the edges of the calendar, their little spiky sections every now and then. It looks like a little leaf sticking out the side, and that's supposed to be a flower just kind of like falling into the calendar. I'm also using this dotted technique. I got this idea from Julianne Doodles, maybe? I will put her account here on the screen. She has a YouTube channel and an Etsy, and her bullet journal is really cute and inspiring, and she does a lot of dotted lines, and the same thing for Leela journals. And I think that's just a cute way to add some variety, because I mean, just straight lines is very boring, and by adding the dotting lines, you just add a little more brightness to the page, a little more space, a little more whimsicalness. I think I'm just listing random names here, but I like how it looks, so I kept this motif throughout the entire setup by doing the lines dotted and not completely straight. This is also an element that comes from hEaRtStOpPeR because some of the boxes were also dotted, and so it just kind of ties everything together and makes it look really cute. As I'm finishing up coloring this spread, I did want to talk for a second about the color palette that I'm using. Again, all of my colors will be linked down below, and they're mostly just Tombos and Crayolas, honestly, but I wanted to keep a very woodland theme, and so I was using like 5 different shades of green throughout this entire setup, I think, and that's pretty evident by the different shades of green in the climbing flowers. But I also wanted to keep it really springy because I'm not a huge fan of too dark colors on my bullet journal, especially during a month like May, and so I added in a lot of pinks and yellows and peaches, and this especially light beige color was super helpful in coloring like the castle and the mushroom stems. And so I'm actually really happy with how this theme turned out and how the colors turned out, because they're not nearly as dark as they could be, and so that makes it seem very springy even if it is in the middle of a dense forest. Another thing is you can see me coloring in the pixie at the top, and I actually gave her white blonde hair, which is something I've always wanted to draw, like a dark skinned pixie with a like light colored hair. I think the combination is just super cute, so I finally got to put it in my bullet journal, and I love how she turned out. These 2 characters and the 3rd character on the last page are just so adorable, so drop any of your comments for any of the 3 down below, because they are adorable and cute and need to be named. I'm coloring in these calendar boxes with a scribbly line to kind of implement the scribbly way that I've been coloring in the rest of the drawings in this setup, and I just think that's really creative and something I don't see very often, and so I'm really happy that I ended up doing that. As I finish out this spread, I did want to mention mention that I hit a huge goal this past month, and that was I finally monetized my YouTube channel. And I'm so excited about it because it has been a goal for a very long time. And so I wanted to thank you guys because I owe it all to you, of course, for watching my videos and for supporting me. So thank you very much for doing so. And just know I appreciate y'all very, very much. Now you can see I'm drawing little sky boxes, as I like to call them, little sections of the sky, just kind of peeping out from behind the turtle and from behind the Dutch door. And I think that just kind of like connects it to the front page where it had the clouds and blue boxes circling. And you'll see in a moment how it also connects to the third page. So as I'm finishing this spread here, I cut out the Dutch door, which is extremely inconvenient to do on camera, I must say, because I don't want to move my journal too much. But I'm finishing out those little tabs and just adding the final touches like numbering the boxes, which I always forget to do. And now let's move on to the third page, which is going to be my habit tracker and essentially brain dump for May. Okay, so here we are in the last page of the setup, which I think is maybe the most cohesive. I don't know, I really cannot tell you which one is my favorite spread in all of the setup because I think all of them have their own good little traits, but I do love this spread. So like I mentioned, there is a third character on this spread, and that is this little elf in the bottom corner, which I saw on Pinterest and just had to draw it. Again, I'll put the picture here on the screen, and my dad said he looks like Dobby from Harry Potter and Yoda. So he's kind of like a mixture between the two of them, I guess, but don't kill me. I kind of do not like either of those characters, so I don't want to name him either of those names. So again, if you have any name suggestions, definitely comment them down below because he is adorable and deserves a name just like the ones in the calendar page. Now, one thing I would like to mention is that obviously there is not the same art for every page in the setup. Like with the elf on this page and the fairy on the other page and the castle on the cover page, they're all very different drawings and almost have nothing to do with each other. And I tried to keep them cohesive though by drawing them similarly and drawing them with the same pen, but I still think the theme kind of works together as a very cohesive theme simply because I'm trying to keep a consistent art style, of course, but I'm also using the same colors throughout the entire theme. And I think the flying flowers and clouds that are always in every page, along with like the dotted lines and just like the style of the spreads, help keep it cohesive in comparison to like different months, even if the art is not the same thing. So just keep that in mind when you're making your bullet journal spreads. You don't have to draw like the same fish on every page for a theme to be cohesive. You can draw technically whatever you want, but as long as there's still elements that pull it all together, it can still be a very cohesive bullet journal theme. And honestly, this is a good video idea, so comment if you want me to make an entire video about this because I do have a lot to say on this topic, and I can give you guys some good tips. So if you guys watched my April plan with me, which will always be linked down in the description box below if you wanted to go check it out, but I started a new spread that month where I did weekly to-dos. And so I had a spread divided into 4 boxes, one for each week of the month, and under I would put the main to-dos I needed to finish that week. And honestly, I think it was a really good spread idea, and I definitely want to keep using it in the future, but unfortunately May is my exam season, and so I needed another spread to fill up this page, and I was honestly too lazy to make another Dutch door, so I decided to squish that concept into a tiny little to-do box in this top left corner. But I think we'll at least hold for a couple weeks and not the entire month because I have a lot of like major things I need to do, not little things, and so that will definitely suit me for this month, but I might go back to the weekly to-dos next month. All that to say is the page on the left is mostly going to be just an empty brain dump page, and I'm leaving it for AP testing. So if you live in the US, you probably know what AP testing is, and I have 3 AP tests that I'm going to be taking at the beginning/middle of May, and so I definitely need to plan out my studying time for that and figure that out because I would like to get the college credit for those classes that I paid for, so I'm definitely going to be a little stressed about that. But speaking of which, because I am taking those exams, I did want to mention I'm going to be taking a tiny little break. I've done some pre-planning, and so I don't think I'm going to be taking a break off of YouTube, but I might take a small couple days break off of Instagram because I cannot post on the days that I'm going to be leading up and taking the exams because obviously school takes first priority for a day like that. So yeah, I just want to let you know that I might not be as active at the beginning of the month, but towards the end of the month when exam season is over, I'm going to be very excited because it means there's only a couple weeks till summer and my birthday, and so I'm excited to get back into the swing of things after AP exam season is over. Now on the right, we have my habit tracker page, which is very straightforward. I think if you know what a bullet journal is, you know what a habit tracker is. You basically just fill in the days that you do your habits to kind of track, you know, what you're doing and if you're actually improving on your habits. They haven't really changed that much from last month, so I'm not going to really elaborate on that, but I will say that one thing I'm also missing from last month's setup is a social media tracker, and I've been going back and forth on how to use a social media tracker. It's been kind of a new spread that I've implemented, but the main reason that I put it in my bullet journal journal was so that I could visually delegate which days I was posting a picture on Instagram and what days I was posting a reel on Instagram and what days I was posting on TikTok and what I was doing on all three. And so it's a lot harder to do that digitally, so I really wanted to put a spread in my bullet journal. But in the past month, I've realized that I actually hate TikTok. Like, I don't like the software, I don't like how to edit, I don't like how to film, and I don't like scrolling on TikTok, and I don't like anything about TikTok really, only that it has trends that predict the trends on Instagram Reels, which is definitely very helpful. However, I don't like the platform, and so I'm not posting on TikTok like at all anymore, and because of that, I can put all of my content planning in my digital Notion, which also makes it easy to access no matter where I am, if I have my bullet journal with me or not. So for now, all of my planning is going to be done on Notion, and actually as of the time that I'm filming this, I have planned out literally the entire month of content for Instagram and YouTube over there, and so that just makes it really simple for me, which is why I don't have an entire spread dedicated to that in this month's bullet journal setup. However, although I'm not doing TikTok, I am getting into YouTube Shorts, which I think you guys probably noticed because I posted like 5, I think. So all or most of my reels will hopefully be transferred over to YouTube Shorts because they seem to do really well, so hopefully you guys get to see them over here too. As we move on to the flip through, I will just say the Dutch story was a little messy. You can kind of see how things are overlapping and a little chaotic. I tried my best to separate each page and make them look different from each other, but I think even though it is a little chaotic, it kind of adds to the whimsicalness of this theme with all the flowers and hectic art and drawing and colors everywhere. So I don't know, I really love how this theme turned out. I love all the drawings, and I really hope you guys do too. I have literally been sitting at this desk filming for the past like 4 hours for this incredibly long setup, so I'm sure this video is very long, which is why I thank you, yes you, very much for watching to the end. I really appreciate you. I really hope this video was inspiring and gave you some ideas, and if it did, make sure to subscribe and comment down below what your bullet journal theme is for May. If you have still not set up your bullet journal for May, or especially if you don't have a theme idea, I recommend checking out this video next because in it I explain some of my top hacks for finding original and creative bullet journal theme ideas, and I bet one of them could help you out.